I interviewed her, Dan, when I was at NBC about creating IT cosmetics. And she did have the high, I can't even do it, my voice is too low, but she had the high squeaky voice a little, but she's really leaning in now in her little podcast with Megyn. And she's gone next octave up. And the two of them have the weirdest dynamic. And so in this podcast, Megyn does her perfectly curated life thing, but she's allegedly wearing no makeup. Meanwhile, she's got like the perfect blowout, and like she's completely camera ready, except she didn't put eye makeup on. And she also is pretending like she's crying. And we did a zero in, like we zoomed in just to see there isn't a tear in sight, Dan. Look at this. I invite the viewers to take a close-up look at this. Where's the tear? There's nothing there. Look, it's an actor's trick. She just keeps wiping and wiping and wiping, so we think she has a heart.
Oh my God, Megyn. She has this really famous thing where she says one tap left eye and she can make herself cry on demand. And it's a really good thing to have as an actress. But you're completely right. There were no tears there. And this podcast with Jamie Kern-Lima was absolutely car crash. I mean, Jamie Kern-Lima is actually a very successful woman, self-made billionaire. However, she is a fame whore because, she first found fame by appearing on the first series of Big Brother in the United States. But she had that totally scrubbed from the internet because now she believes that she's the new Oprah Winfrey. And the problem is, you realize these are the types of people Meghan Markle is surrounding herself with. And none of them are prepared to ever give her a dose of reality. Like For My Sins, listen to the new episode today of Confessions of a Female Founder. She calls everyone female founders, and I know you find that very, very ridiculous, as do I. And it's with this British woman called Hannah Mendoza, who actually created a brand called Clever Blends, and Megyn invested in her company. But the podcast is meant to be Hannah Mendoza's story, right? But Megyn spends the entire time talking about what it was like for her to invest in this woman, Hannah Mendoza.
That's all she does. She only has on people who she gave money to so they can say how amazing she is.
Yeah, it's like she's her boss. So like Megyn is Hannah Mendoza's boss, effectively. So clearly she's keeping to the script. But there's this really awful moment where Megyn turns into the mean girl that we know she all is, and she mocks Hannah Mendoza, who's a bit of an Earth Mother type, for turning up to this interview, this first interview when she gave her money, in Birkenstocks and a satin jumpsuit. And it's like Megyn's laughing at her about it. It's very, very bizarre. And unfortunately, Megyn is now, well, maybe it's fortunate for us because Megyn is now the executive producer of all of these works. So we see the real her. It's like oh my God, you made me laugh so much with Maureen and in your version of this, Meg, which is absolutely fantastic.
Megyn Kelly just dropped a bombshell on Meghan Markle, exposing her so-called crying performance during a podcast interview with Jamie Kern-Lima. Now, Megyn points out what a lot of us suspected. Megyn keeps wiping her eyes as if she's crying, but there are no tears in sight. Seriously, where are the tears? It's all an act, folks, and we're about to break it down, frame by frame. Dan Wootton calls it exactly what it is, an actor's trick. And let's not forget, Megyn has openly admitted that she can cry on demand. Just one tap to the left eye and boom, the waterworks start. But this time she forgot the tears and just kept the performance. Think that was a mistake? Or just a calculated move to keep playing the victim?
You know the moment with Mindy Kaling when, Mindy Kaling is clearly terrified of Meghan Markle.
Clearly.
Right? And the
simmering.
whole thing. And so this is the thing. Meghan Markle is only now surrounded by people who will tell her what she wants to hear. And so again, the level of delusion is off the scale. But just remember, Jamie Kern-Lima sits down with Meghan Markle for 90 minutes, talks about what a wonderful businesswoman she is, what a wonderful friend she is. Not one question, Megyn, about what about these bullying allegations, right? Surely there now must be something in it. The fact that your staff in Hollywood are also questioning this. At the very least, I mean, I know she's her friend and I know it's a different type of format, but at the very least, she could have said, look, were they just lies? Were they people who were coming for you unfairly? But remember, we now live in this sort of dual world, don't we, where there is the truth and there is what celebrities can put out to be the truth via their chosen platforms. And obviously there are great things about that in the independent space because we can also immediately analyze, and that's what we do, and point out this is not true, this is not true, this is not true. But I do just want to remind people, Megyn, for all of the times that Meghan Markle says that she's happy in her relationship with Prince Harry. And there's this moment where Jamie Kern-Lima says, will you stay with Prince Harry forever? Will you be married to him forever? And her voice goes up 2 octaves and she says, yes, because she's lying. Because Megyn, and this is something I'd reported for years, I think we spoke about it, but she is shopping the post-divorce book to publishers already. And if people thought that was some type of conspiracy theory, though I always believe conspiracy theories come true these days, Vanity Fair confirmed that in their big profile.
That she's shopping her post-divorce memoir?
Yes.
What?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And in the Jamie Kern-Lima interview, she asks, will you write another book? She doesn't say, will you write a memoir? She says, will you write another book? And Megyn says, a lot of people ask if I want to write my memoir, but I haven't lived enough life yet. And what is going on there is that Megyn doesn't want to have to write a book now, which would obviously include loads and loads of positive stuff about Prince Harry, because she is preparing for the big payday, which she knows will be a massive payout to keep her going for years and years. I mean, Harry, remember, got well over 20 million for his 3-book deal. And that is what she is proposing to do. And as I say, this is something I had reported for years and years and years, but Vanity Fair included it in their recent profile of Meghan Markle. Katie Nicholl, who is the royal correspondent for Vanity Fair, is very clear that they weren't coming into the profile. The editor of Vanity Fair didn't have some type of agenda. Remember, they'd previously put Meghan Markle on that famous cover, Wild About Harry. There was no agenda going into this profile. What they discovered was pretty horrifying. So Harry has been warned. It's like, mate, get out. Seriously, Vanity Fair is reporting that your wife is shopping to publishers a post-divorce book where she's going to throw you under the bus. Get out.
And this is where things get really interesting. Dan Wootton points out that Megyn has surrounded herself with a bunch of sycophants, people who won't ever call her out, won't ever tell her the truth, and just keep feeding her ego. Case in point, her podcast guest Jamie Kern-Lima. Now, Jamie's a successful businesswoman, but instead of letting Jamie tell her own story, Megyn made the entire episode about herself. Are we surprised? Nope. Not one bit. Dan calls it a car crash, and he's right. Megyn only brings on people she's given money to, so they have to say how wonderful she is. Is it about empowering women or just another chance for Megyn to play the hero? You decide. So Megyn brings on Hannah Mendoza, the founder of Clever Blends, a brand Megyn supposedly invested in. But instead of letting Hannah tell her story, Megyn hijacks the entire conversation, turning it into yet another "look how great I am" monologue. He talks more about herself than Hannah. Isn't the podcast called Confessions of a Female Founder, not Confessions of Meghan Markle? Dan Wootton nails it. It's not about empowering women. It's about making Megyn look good. And you can bet that every single guest on that show is handpicked to sing Megyn's praises. Otherwise, they're not getting invited back.
Wait a minute, but why would she be doing that? Because that would really show, the crack in the facade. I have trouble believing that, because she right now wants to maintain the facade and wants us all to believe that it's perfect in Montecito, welcome to Montecito time, where we have champagne with fruit dollops inside of it at all hours of the day. But anyway, why would she risk that news coming out by actively shopping? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, she's a deeply manipulative woman, number one. And what she always has is a number of business contacts who are working on her behalf and just sizing up the potential future scene. And certainly there have been real bumps in the road when it comes to the marriage over the past couple of years. And remember, there was also a time when it didn't necessarily look as if Netflix was going to stand by her. They already lost the Spotify deal where she was described as effing grifters. And yeah, totally. I mean, this is the problem, Megyn. Sometimes these things that I end up reporting about Meghan Markle, they do sound too crazy to be true.
Yes,
and so there was that moment when it appeared within the Vanity Fair profile. I was absolutely delighted because I was like, okay, this is good. Like it's not that I'm
not the only one
in the mainstream media necessarily, but I'm like, no, this is good because they did not come into this with an agenda. I think it's absolutely fair to say now that I do have an agenda where I'm not pro Harry and Meghan. They totally tried to ruin my life and destroy me because I revealed the truth about their exit from the royal family. And that's something we've gone into previously, and we don't have to do it again today. But I think it's absolutely fair to say, I'm not a fan of these two, right? But Vanity Fair, they went in with a completely clean slate just to find out what the state of their relationship was like now. In fairness, Vanity Fair also reported that for the moment, the marriage is on track and they're still very physically attracted to each other. I think that is something that doesn't quite tell the full story, which is that Harry knows that this marriage is all he has. And he also knows that if the marriage were to end while the children were still young, because of the way the law works in California, is he would not be able to take those children back to California. So, of course, he is going to try and make the marriage work. But the idea that this is some sort of happy union, back to the UK, sorry. But the idea that this is some sort of happy union is for the birds. He's a very troubled guy. He's a very troubled soul. People are very worried about him. But the problem is the idea that his brother is going to run in and save him this time is just unfortunately not going to happen.
Megyn Kelly doesn't hold back. She straight up says, there's something wrong with her. And honestly, after watching Megyn fake cry for sympathy while simultaneously bragging about her investments in power plays, can you blame Megyn for calling her out? We're all watching the same act, but not everyone's willing to say what they really think. Megyn makes a great point. How can someone be so desperate to appear relatable and authentic, while staging tears and controlling every single aspect of the narrative? At some point, the mask is going to slip, and when it does, it's going to be ugly. Now, here's the kicker. Reports are surfacing that Megyn is already floating the idea of a post-divorce memoir. That's right. We're not even done with the first act, and she's already planning the sequel.
Not true. Okay, two things. Here, indeed, is the piece from the Vanity Fair cover story from February 2025, inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's big business ambitions 5 years after their royal exit. Quote, a few years ago, a rumor began circulating around the book world about another prospective project for Meghan. This story, which a person with knowledge confirms the broad details of, was that Meghan's team had a conversation with a publishing house to gauge interest in the idea for a potential book. The concept, for which there was no written or formal proposal, was post-divorce. Not a general book on life after marital dissolution or one about Meghan's past experience. This book, this notion of a book really, might center on a post-Harry divorce. Not that there was actually one in the works, just if this a priori divorce ever came to be, would this publisher theoretically be interested in a book that took place in its aftermath? Unbelievable. I totally missed this. Another source with knowledge says if that's true to any degree, she would have been approached and not vice versa. No offer was ever made and no manuscript was produced. After all, there was no divorce. But that doesn't mean they didn't shop the interest on what there would be in a book.
Absolutely true. And actually, Vanity Fair sums up pretty well how it works. It's like, would you be interested in this? Maybe. But, Meghan screwed it all up now anyway because she had Ari Emanuel at WME trying to save her career. And he got so frustrated because she was not listening to his advice. So this is the problem.
There's a long line of disappointed Meghan Markle helpers, fans, friends, staff, etc. Here, so contrast all of that with the way she talks about H and their relationship. Here is it. Is it 46 or 47, Lauren? You choose. Go for it. 47.
Are you in love now more than ever? More than you've ever been?
Yeah, I mean,
you have to imagine at the beginning, everyone has like butterflies and then we immediately went into the trenches together.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, like 6 months into dating. So now 7 years later, when you have a little bit of breathing space, you can just enjoy each other in a new way. And that's why I feel like it's more of a honeymoon period for us now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be married forever?
Yes.
I have a letter.
He's also a fox, if you haven't noticed. My husband's very, very handsome. But his heart is even more beautiful.
Weird. I love that your eyes are sparkling right now.
Oh.
Oh my God. Dan, I threw up in my mouth.
Yes. Yes.
Dan, when you do interviews on your show, do you do the Jamie Kern Lima reactions? Yes. Oh my God, there's something wrong with her.
Is Megyn genuinely interested in empowering women, or is she just lining up her next big payday? Because at this point, it looks like she's using every single person in her life, including Harry, to keep herself in the headlines. Dan sums it up. It's desperation, plain and simple. Megyn wants to stay relevant, but the more she tries, the more transparent her tactics become. And the public is catching on. All right, folks. That's it for today's explosive breakdown of Meghan Markle's latest PR disaster. If you're tired of the fake tears, the manipulative interviews, and the endless self-promotion, hit that like button, subscribe for more no BS commentary, and drop a comment below. Do you think Megyn is losing control of her narrative? Or is she just getting started? Let me know what you think.